So I'm Ramesh Kesanupalli. Some of you know me, I think. And I'm today going to talk about Accountable Digital Identity Association. It's another nonprofit organization, just like FIDO Alliance. And what Accountable Digital Identity Association is trying to do is to define a global identity framework. The basic premises is we are in a very interesting time where the real world is no longer exist for us anymore. Our digital world has become the real world. And in this new dynamic that we are in, till now, any online fraud that we have been having, which is significant, online fraud is significant, as you all know, and some of it we are trying to fix with FIDO Alliance with respect to hacks and stuff. Most of the identity fraud, when it relates to financial related stuff, financial loss and financial fraud, when it happens, consumer simply calls financial institution and says, it's not me. And financial institution will take the necessary action, and the consumer is happy, and the reason they are able to do that, because that's cost of business. That cost and the loss is actually built into the ecosystem. That's why we got used to it. It is built in. Now we are in a different phase in the digital world. The new phase that we are entering into, last 5-6 years, it's in heavy rampant, is the disinformation and misinformation. This disinformation and misinformation is not a financial kind of a loss where it gets reset and gets eaten up automatically by itself within a window of a quarter for a financial company. If it is a person's thing, you probably will get the money back in about a week's time. The disinformation, misinformation is causing societal damage. There is no way that we can put a price on that. And when we try to do, and as Sam knows this one here, when towards 2019, middle of 2019, we were actually approached by many people in the FIDO Alliance wanting us to look into standardization of identity framework. Identity framework is heavily regional centric, geocentric. It has its own complexities. We are still focused on authentication. We didn't want to really diverge at the time. I know we now started an ID working group also. What I did was in 2019, I actually went around for about 6 months. I traveled all over the globe and tried to understand what is causing this problem. If you put yourself about 100,000 foot level, the digital fraud that's happening is directly related to 3 issues. Majority of the fraud. Either somebody stole your credentials. Second one is you yourself are faking an identity. It's almost like me going out creating Ramesh with a different last name, the person who does not exist. I create that account and I go to some social networking and create that account, and there will be 50 different services which will say log in with that. So in 55 different locations now, I am, Ramesh Johnson. The person does not exist. Third one is personal data theft. We all, when we are trying to either start a new device or recover a device, most of us are asked to, identify some traffic lights and ask standard questions. Where did you meet your wife? What's your car? Who is your best friend? These are the standard questions. When somebody steals that data, which we spread that data across many, many sources, any one place get hacked, it becomes very, very easy to take over our account. And that's the other problem. That's causing the fraud that we see in the market. So after talking to all these people, I also spoke to a lot of governments and a lot of technology bodies that are working in the digital identity space. And what I felt was, as we are progressing and as we are taking on the new reality, COVID actually expedited that reality. It is just not enough for us to continue to think digital world differently than real world. We have to make sure that we do things that are there in the real world, bring digital world closer to the real world. And what the vision of ADA Association is, security and privacy are definitely fundamental rights of the user, It needs to protect those things, but trust and accountability are equally important to if you want to maintain a balance and a working society. We have come too far treating digital world as an account-oriented infrastructure. And that's actually the root problem. And there is no direct linkage between an account, like if my son takes my user ID password, if he takes my device, he becomes me. There is no real, this is how we progressed, and we got ourselves into the picture, which is never good because that actually expedited. Anybody can go anywhere, create an online account, be whatever they want to be. Now, it is time for us to know the thing that is existing in the real world is core accountability. In the real world, Ramesh Kesanupalli is there, he has a social security number, he has a date of birth. Something happens to those with those attributes, some fraud happens, Ramesh Kesanupalli will get questioned about that. We do not have in the digital world. In the digital world, I can actually go create any Facebook account that I want today. And I can put anybody's picture that, it's not difficult, like for instance, Arshad here. I can take Arshad's picture and create a Facebook account calling Arshad Noor and then put his picture. And I can do whatever I want after that. Facebook does provide me security and privacy. But where is trust and accountability, whether it is created by particular person? So what we felt was, if you really want to fix this problem, we really need to think differently. So what's happening in the real world is what we need to replicate and bring it to the digital world. In the real world, if you see, our identities are actually not created by us. Our identities are given to us by a trusted group of people that primarily includes our parents. Our parents, when you're born, is going to say, yes, this person is going to be called Ramesh, and he's going to inherit his last name from his dad, and after that, the medical facility will come out and say, certify the record of truth, and government comes and issues a birth certificate. That birth certificate is the core identity of me. That is a piece of record, which is the identity, birth certificate. Behind that, there is a human being. Now, my parents took that elementary school, birth certificate, took me to elementary school, and then said, here is my son, I want to enroll him in elementary school. My elementary identity is created. I take that, finish 5-6 years there, go to high school, finish 5-6 years there, go to college, university. Everything else I have done in my life after that is directly derived and given to that particular identity, the core identity that was created by somebody else and given to me. Once it was created, it's not owned by the government, it's not owned by my parents, it's not owned by my doctor. If something good happens, I get credit. If I screw up, I get penalized. It's as simple as that. We need to make sure we need to bring that kind of paradigm in the digital world to make sure there is a real human behind the identity, and each one of us have different personas in the real world. Based on which context that we speak to, we actually disclose whatever we need to disclose based on whom we are talking to. So what is the solution? The solution is, just like somebody else created an identity in the real world given to us, in the digital world, we call that identity a birth certificate. In the real world, we use the word digital address. A digital address should be there for every user. That digital address should be initiated by a trusted issuer. It should be bound to human attributes. And it should be, when that key, the representation is created, that is given and delivered to the user, and it is bound by FIDO keys and FIDO registration to the service which actually offers a ADI, Accountable Digital Identity Interchange service. And on that service now, you start connecting every identity and every data credential that you have, may that be the diploma that you earn, every medical record you have in 20 different places, your title certificate for your car, your title for your home, everything now can actually be simply linked to that particular identity, where only you can control, only you will be able to create, and only you will be able to access. So it will be in the form of digital address actually is a digital representation of you, which is like a cryptographic representation. It's a digital key. And because you can't remember that, when you actually try to hook it up to a ADI interchange service, you give a user-friendly name that you can easily remember. That way, when you go to a different service provider, identity provider or a data issuer for you, you can simply say, here is my digital address, issue my credential there, to keep things very, very simple. If anytime when you're doing something for the consumer, the centerpiece is going to be the ease of use and convenience. He doesn't want to understand anything about long complexities that happens in the behind the scenes. So when we designed the system and in the specification, there are 5 core principles that we took. 5 core principles is whoever implements such a service, they should not own anybody's personal data or personal identity. Second one is, let the personal data will be the user's data, but it will be under the governance of the actual issuing agency. They don't have to host it. They can actually work with a provider who is going to host it and provide a cloud storage for them. But it will still be owned by the user, controlled by the user, but it's governed by the issuer, where a driver's license, if it is expired or if there is a mistake and he may committed something that is not supposed, the driver license need to be revoked, then that governance and that control will still be with the issuers. Third one is, any time any disclosure happens by this service about the user or identity or user's personal data, user's consent is always in the loop. Fourth principle we have is, we want to make sure the people who are actually providing you the identities and credentials are the people who will get benefit out of those things. Like when I went to a particular university and when an enterprise checks whether I went to that university or not, I would like my university to get rewarded for that, not LexisNexis or Equifax. It's as simple as that. Why go to the sources and check? Last principle we have was, every effort that I saw in the market, every digital identity effort that I saw, it's all about people who have smartphones, who are technologically savvy, who can use this stuff. What we felt was, there are 25% of the people who are out of digital identity infrastructure in the world right now. They don't have any presentable identity today. We want to design a solution where I can actually give a digital address on a smart card on a FIDO key. That will actually enable the people who are not technologically savvy, and there are so many governmental related activities and funds and programs that refugee camps, United Nations, when they send different consignments to disaster areas, those people don't have a presentable form of identity. How do you deliver, how do you make sure those actual consignments are actually delivered to humans with identity, or Ramesh is selling it to the closest safe way? How do you track that? How do you make sure these are delivered? Bill is nodding. I don't sell those things. Yeah. Okay. So this is the architecture that we talked about. Basically, we all have, each one of us have multiple trusted identities on a given day, any given day. Unfortunately, none of those trusted identities can be used, cannot be presented anywhere. If I'm working with a reputed company like an IBM or a Google or Microsoft, that identity is pretty solid. But I cannot present it anywhere, and I cannot actually prove that that's me, because there is no link going back to Microsoft and saying I'm really working there, and they can actually stand behind that. I'm just giving an example. So each one of us, the trusted issuers who can create this identity is, it can be a place of employment, it could be an educational institution, it could be the bank that has done a fair bit of identity vetting on us before they open an account. Same with the educational institution, driver's license authority, passport authority, any medical facility that you go to, whether they took your blood and did a blood test, or gave a pharmacy vaccine shot, or when you went to a hospital and showed yourself up there, and every place that you took service in the medical facility, they have done identity vetting on you. They have the necessary information about you. Any one of those people can actually be the bootstrapper of your identity. So in the architecture, what you see in the middle is what we call ADI interchange. ADI interchange is the digital address service. When somebody implements that service, they are the commercial entities who are going to be going and providing a issuer agent to every enterprise that they are working. And when they give that, that issuer agent is going to have a data connector, and it is going to have a storage there. When any of these service providers, when the issuers, trusted sources that have my identity, all they need to do is they don't have to change any of the infrastructure they have. They don't have to rewrite any of their applications. Simply call one simple API called create digital address. When they say create digital address, the connector that is there is going to go to, if it is enterprise, going to go to HR database, simply take first name, last name, date of birth, and social security number. One-way hash them. Take that hash and pass it to the service and say, hey, is there a digital representation for this guy? That hash then goes to the directory service and looked upon and say, is there a key that is generated for this hash? If it is not, then that service creates, that's actually a DLT, that creates a unique key. That key then registers against that hash and kept there. That key is what gets delivered back to the trusted issuer saying, okay, this is the birth certificate for this guy, you can go deliver it to him. If the person happens to be there, if I'm going to the work, my MIS administrator can do that because he has access to all those things. If I'm a janitor in the big company, they can simply give this 502 key that is sitting there now below. Simply take that and put it in the USB reader and then push the digital address into the key. If that card has a fingerprint sensor, I use our friend's card, Paytm Technologies card that is out there. Simply they can put their finger right there, they get provisioned. If he's a non-techie guy. If he's a techie person, you simply go there and then the screen, they have a QR code with the key, take your phone, download the digital address application, just scan that one. When you scan it, you get FIDO registered into the digital address service. Now, the center one that you see is a FIDO account that has the key, your birth certificate, which is based on the digital address that was created, that is bound to you. And if you're not there in a given enterprise, they don't have to do one by one. They can actually mass create digital addresses for all those people because the HR database have all those things. Simply send them to all the employees through their, a trusted email address. All of them have digital addresses. Now they will be able to create an account, which is, that particular service does not have any personal information about anybody other than the cryptographic representation of the person. Now, on the right-hand side, any service provider at any time wants to check who you are really. You simply have to provide them a one-time DID based on your digital address. When they want to go check whether you went to this university or whether you're working for this company, they simply ask that digital address, and the digital address service will send a notification to your phone, and then you authorize using FIDO. At that time, the service provider will be connected to the issuer storage, and the actual verification of that piece of data only will be given to the service provider. Now, this is all based on W3C verifiable credentials. This is based on decentralized identifiers, and this is also based on FIDO. This sits on top of FIDO. It brings FIDO, and then every account that's out there ties to a unique identity key that every enterprise can give it to outside for the consumers. If I'm an employee of a company, they can create this digital address that's outside the infrastructure and then give it to me. Once it is created, it's mine. I own that one, and it will be for my life. Even if I leave the job, that key will still be mine. I can take that, go everywhere, go to my every source that I have where my identities are there. I can simply tell them, here is my digital address. Have the credentials issued to that particular digital address. When they issue them, the issued credentials are still going to be in the same place if they choose to in the infrastructure, or they give it to the service provider who is providing the service. So from issuer standpoint, only thing that they need to do is create digital address if the user does not have one. If he already has one, just issue the digital address. That's all they need to know. It's extremely easy to integrate. It's extremely easy to use. They don't need to know complicated way of downloading the wallets or downloading this and that and going to verifiers. And this also brings, if you see, this also brings a very tight governance. We have issues where when we talked about COVID credentials that are being issued, there are so many fake credentials that are being issued. Because how do you trust the issuer? How do you bring this issuer into the ecosystem? Now, in this ecosystem, the accountable digital identity infrastructure ecosystem, the digital address service does not know anything but the key and the requests and the verification that are going on back and forth. That's all it knows. As long as the user is well behaving, is behaving normally, just like the real world, as long as you're not doing any fraud, nobody is going to ask your driver's license or anything. If you commit a fraud, then comes the problem in the real world. Similarly here, as long as you're being a good citizen, your interactions will be completely privacy protected. No one knows about those things. Even the service does not know anything about you. If there is a problem, under the right legal framework, the service provider can say, I'm having trouble with this particular key. When they go back and then go to the service, the key, they will know which issuer actually initiated that. And the issuer know for whom that was created. That's how you bring accountability into the picture. We give 100% protection to the privacy, and if there is a problem, we will definitely hold you accountable for those things. It's very easy to integrate, and the middle layer that you're seeing, digital address services, anybody can implement that. So we expect that there will be multiple people who will implement. The protocol was published. There is a governance process. There is trust at every level, because the people who implement the interchange service will have to be vetted by the ADI Association. The interchanges are the people who will bring issuers and service providers on board. They are actually registered to the ADI registries, and it is the issuers who will actually onboard the users. At every single level, there is a trust that is established and given automatically. So the protocol is published 2 months ago, and now we are open to actually invite more members into this one. I know we only have 5 minutes. I have just 3 videos, 1 minute each. I'm just going to play it. That will show how easy it is to create a digital address, how easy it is using that digital address. You can actually do a resetting password, or you can even log in with a digital address. Can you play those videos, please? Just 4 videos, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 minute each.
Hi, this is Jason Burnett, and I'm demonstrating issuing a digital address to a user by an enterprise. In this case, we have Link Systems. They are set up as an organization with DTX. They're able to issue digital addresses and identity credentials. So I have myself set up as a user here. I don't yet have a digital address. However, when I click on the profile details, I can click the digital address button and I'm able to get a digital address. So once I have a digital address created with the issuer, I can use that digital address. I can send it to the user by email, or I can push it to a special kind of smart card. In this case, I'm going to use my mobile device to import it into a digital address app. When I do that, we have a process. We use the identity verification process to guarantee that the holder of the app is the subject of the digital address. So in this case, I'm scanning my driver's license, and then I will verify my own identity. My face will be matched to the face on the driver's license. And when that's successful, we will do a registration for FIDO. That was a quick Face ID scan. And now I'm able to use the digital address inside the digital address app.
Next one, please.
Hi, I'm Jason Burnett with Digital Trust, and this is Password Reset with Digital Address. Rather than use knowledge-based questions or SMS-based two-factor authentication, which can be intercepted or shared, a service provider can instead leverage a user's digital address to offer a more secure way to recover a lost or expired password. Since the digital address is identity-based, the service provider can be assured that the actual user is the one performing the recovery process. After the user scans the QR, they will be prompted to share the necessary credential to log in to the password reset page. Once the user has consented to share the required credential, they will be redirected to the password reset page. Hi, I'm Jason Burnett with Digital Trust, and this is Login with Digital Address. When a user has a digital address, a service provider can leverage that to offer more secure, accountable, identity-based login. In this example, rather than a username and password, the user logs in with their digital address. With the Digital Address app, the user can scan the login QR and consent to share the required login credential. The Digital Address app employs FIDO for secure, passwordless authentication to share the user's credential. Once the user has shared their credential, they can be logged into the site or service. Hi, I'm Jason Burnett with Digital Trust, and this is Verify User with a digital address. Some social media platforms offer a manual user verification service to ensure that public figures' online personae are not hijacked or set up by imposters. With a digital address, a service can easily use the digital address to ensure that any user is who they claim to be. Once the user has consented to share the required identity information via digital address, the service can flag the account as verified.
So the specification is open specification. We have a commercial implementation already. Specification was announced and released August first week. It is on adaassociation.org website. In the technical side, there is specification. People can download that one. And now we are going into the second version. So now, deliberately for the first version, we made sure we only handpicked the people that we wanted in the alliance to make sure the guardrails are set properly. Now that the first version spec is done, second version spec, we are now in the recruitment of inviting more people to come and join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. We've got time for one short question. Oh.
Sorry. Yes, hi, thank you. Is this on? Yeah. So I like this framework. I think it's great to have digital accountability, but I don't really see how it solves the disinformation, because the people who are producing the disinformation are inclined not to go through this process.
So the information primarily, it's like this. We can't stop people who want to behave badly, but we can give a place for people. If you see a ADI verifiable next to the content that's what put there, people can say, I can safely trust this one, with the assumption that people put all kinds of stuff on digital world because they know there is no accountability, there's no traceability. It's like, I'm not going to stand in front of Hyatt and start shouting obscenities, because first person might ignore, second person might ignore, third person will definitely call cops and say this guy is creating nonsense. In the real world, we don't do that because there is accountability and traceability. In the digital world, what we're trying to do is, if certain websites make sure that people can only put on their websites using this one, they can choose to put other one too, but if they want a reliable, high quality, highly rated, trustable content, they should prove who they are. In that scenario, when you go to, sorry for quoting this name, there will be a good Facebook where you can absolutely know that everything that you see is actually put by the right person, and person is traceable if there is a problem. And I can also create a bad one. I can have two Ramesh Kesanupallis. One is definitely verified. Second one is not verified. I can do whatever I want here. So I can't, just like in a city, there will be a good area where we will be free to go. And we know that there is a bad area, we'll be a little careful to go there. It's very simple. We cannot go change the world. We can only provide a transition area. This is the safe area we are creating. If you want to come, please come. So I can't stop people who want to be bad, but I can tell people in this area are good. And that's what this brings to the table.
Great. Thank you very much, Ramesh. Another thank you.